My grandmother's bedroom was filled with photos of her younger days and trinkets from her travels with my grandfather. For the first time in months, I saw her smile when she saw them. I was happy to see her smiling again. The years that followed weren't easy, but they were worth every second. I took care of Grandma like she had once cared for me. I cooked her meals, read to her, and made sure she never felt lonely. My parents abandoned us entirely within the first year. My parents have always been self-centered, but I thought that maybe, just maybe, when Grandma got sick, they'd change. I was wrong. If anything, her illness only brought out the worst in them. Growing up, I was used to being ignored. My parents weren't cruel in the traditional sense. No, they were worse. They didn't yell or hit. They simply acted as if I didn't exist. Their lives revolved around social events, luxurious vacations, and maintaining appearances. They had a huge following and frequently posted to entertain their audience. I was just a background character in their world, an afterthought. Whenever I had difficult homeworks, they would never assist me.
Charles, stop bothering us. Can't you see we're busy?
But it's due tomorrow.
Figure it out yourself. You're old enough. Stop bothering me.
That was the essence of my childhood, teaching myself to navigate life because my parents couldn't be bothered. When I turned 15, nothing prepared me for the day Grandma moved in. It started subtly, with her forgetting small things. A pot left on the stove, her keys misplaced. At first, I thought it was just old age catching up with her. She was 75 after all. But then the forgetfulness turned into confusion. She forgot the way to her favorite grocery store. She forgot my name. I remember the day she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. It's going to progress. She'll need constant care. My parents were silent during the drive home, their faces set in stony expressions. I thought they were processing the news, trying to figure out how to help her. I couldn't have been more wrong.
Well, she's not moving in with us. I can't deal with another liability. Charles is more than enough trouble.
Absolutely not. We don't have the time or the resources for this. God, how can she be so wicked to fall sick now of all times? What are you guys saying? It's Grandma. She's family.
Family or not, we can't be expected to put our lives on hold for her. Who even gave you the permission to speak, young man?
Ignore him, babe. He's talking because he has nothing he's responsible for. You know, there are nursing homes for situations like this. Maybe we should take her there. But there were no nursing homes for Grandma. She refused to go, and I couldn't blame her. She'd lived her whole life in her little house, surrounded by memories of my late grandfather and the life they'd built together. She didn't want to be shipped off to a sterile facility to live out her days among strangers. So I took matters into my own hands. I was going to fight my parents for it. She's moving in with us. I can't let you abandon her like this. If you refuse, I'm going to tell all those fans of yours that you're both neglecting Grandma's health. My parents didn't protest, at least not outright. They couldn't afford to have a bad reputation on social media. But their resentment was palpable. They cleared out the guest room begrudgingly, complaining about the inconvenience the entire time.
This is ridiculous. We're not caregivers. I regret birthing this child.
Eventually, Grandma moved in with us. They avoided her as much as possible. My father left for work early and came home late, claiming he was too busy with meetings to help. My mother, who had no job and spent her days lunching with friends, acted as if Grandma didn't exist. It fell on me to take care of her. I was the one who cooked her meals, made sure she took her medication, and comforted her when she grew confused or frightened. One night, as I was helping her into bed, she grabbed my hand.
Thank you, Charlie. I don't know what I'd do without you.
Her words broke my heart. She deserved so much more than this. I couldn't do anything about my parents' case. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. Grandma had had a particularly bad morning, mistaking me for my grandfather and calling out for him in a panic. I managed to calm her down, but the incident left me emotionally drained. I walked into the living room, hoping for a moment of support from my parents. Instead, I found them laughing over glasses of wine, flipping through travel brochures.
We should book this one. Oh my God, this is going to be so fun. Vacation by the water is heavenly.
Are you serious? Grandma is struggling, and all you can think about is a vacation?
Don't start with us, Charles. What's our problem if she's struggling? We've given her a roof, isn't that enough? Get off my back, will you?
She's your mother. They stared at me as if I'd just said gibberish, and that's when it hit me that they didn't care. They never did. A week later, they proved it. I came home from school and found a note where my parents let me know that they'd taken my grandmother to a facility. They said it was for the best and asked me to not bother calling them because they were on vacation and won't be returning until 2 weeks. I grabbed my bike and pedaled as fast as I could to the address they left. The facility was cold and quiet. When I found Grandma, she was sitting alone in a small, sterile room, staring out the window. I apologized to Grandma for their behavior, and she said she was fine, but I knew she lied. She wasn't fine. I vowed then and there to do whatever it took to bring her back home. My parents had shown their true colors, and I couldn't rely on them, but I could rely on myself. After that day at the care facility, I made a promise to myself that no matter what it took, I would visit Grandma every single day. She needed me, and I wasn't going to abandon her like my parents had. The facility reeked of neglect. Despite my constant visits, I knew it wasn't enough. Grandma deserved better than that cold, impersonal place. 2 weeks later, my parents returned home from their vacation. They walked through the door, laughing about some trivial mishap with their luggage. The sight of them infuriated me. How could they laugh when Grandma was wasting away in a place she despised? Especially my mom. Grandma was her mother, and she was Grandma's only child. She should take care of her. My dad was even more stupid. He followed everything my mom did and couldn't advise her. I didn't wait for them to settle. I met them in the living room, holding a knife behind me, and told them what they needed to hear. Grandma's coming home and that's it. I can't stomach how careless you both are. It's unfair. What the hell is your problem, Charles? She's fine where she is. Can you stop bothering us already? She isn't. That place is killing her. You know she isn't fine.
Charles, she's old. She doesn't have much time left anyway. Don't bother yourself anymore. Please? We're just returning home and you're already being an ass. Would you rather be sent to a facility too?
Their callousness hit me like a slap. I pulled out the knife. If you don't bring her back, I swear I'll end my life. Right here, right now. That got their attention. My mother froze, her phone slipping from her hand, and my father's face went pale. They wore a look of panic, the kind I had never seen before. I wasn't bluffing, and they knew it. Eventually, my father spoke. Fine, she can leave the facility, but if you care about her so much, you'll take full responsibility. You'll live with her, in her house. We can't afford to keep her here, if I'm being honest with you. His condition was harsh, but it was nothing I couldn't deal with, so I agreed. 2 days later, Grandma was discharged, and I moved into her house with her. It was a mansion. My grandfather was a wealthy man, and had left the majority of his wealth to my grandmother. I bet it. My grandmother's bedroom was filled with photos of her younger days, and trinkets from her travels with my grandfather. For the first time in months, I saw her smile when she saw them. I was happy to see her smiling again. The years that followed weren't easy, but they were worth every second. I took care of Grandma like she had once cared for me. I cooked her meals, read to her, and made sure she never felt lonely. My parents abandoned us entirely within the first year. They stopped calling, stopped visiting, and eventually, they stopped caring altogether. By the time Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep, I was 20. She had lived a long life, and I was grateful for the time we'd shared. Her will left everything to me. Her house, her fortune, her legacy. Overnight, I became a multimillionaire. But the pain of what my parents had done lingered. They had treated her like a burden and discarded her like trash. I couldn't let it go. I needed to make them pay for the years of neglect, for the way they had treated both Grandma and me. I came up with a plan, something that would hit them where it hurt the most. Knowing how money hungry they were, I created a fake business persona online. Through emails, I introduced myself as a wealthy entrepreneur seeking investors for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It didn't take long for them to bite. They were eager, desperate even, and I played my role perfectly. I hired an actor to handle the in-person meetings. The man was convincing, every bit the polished businessman my parents wanted to believe in. Over the course of several months, I reeled them in. They drained their savings, sold off assets, and invested 90% of their wealth into my fake company, all while dreaming of tenfold returns. And then I disappeared. The fake company folded overnight. The actor I had hired took his pay and left the country, and my parents were left scrambling to recover their money. They tried everything, but I had been meticulous. Every dollar they lost went into healthcare facilities I established in Grandma's honor. 2 months later, news of my wealth reached their ears. One afternoon, they showed up at the gates of my mansion. They still looked good, and I could tell they were still faking their wealth.
Charles, please. We're sorry for everything we did. Forgive us and help us, son. We've lost everything. Help us, please. Help us.
We know we were wrong. We shouldn't have abandoned you and your grandmother. Just give us a chance to make things right, please. They hadn't come out of love or remorse. They were here because they needed my help. If they hadn't lost all their wealth, they'd never have tried to find me. I decided to teach them a final lesson. I released my wild dog on them and recorded them getting chased around. It was a funny scene, watching my parents screaming and running about while my dogs ran after them. The dogs didn't harm them, but they chased them until they ran out of the property, screaming for their dear lives. I posted the video online and told everyone how my parents had abandoned my sick grandma with me when I was only 16. I also let everyone know that they were now broke and the life they were showing on the media recently was all fake. People believed me, and it led to thousands of them unfollowing my parents' page. They went from 250K followers to 20K in one day. By the end of that week, after more people found out that my parents were truly deceiving them, they unfollowed too, until my parents eventually ended up with 1K inactive followers. People talked about them everywhere, and as the media is, some added more to the stories flying around, tarnishing my parents' image even more. I thought that was the end until my mom took me to court to claim my grandma's wealth. Thankfully, Grandma made a video before she died. She gave me a flash drive and told me to watch it only after she was gone, and I respected her wish. So I took the video and showed it to my lawyer.
Hi, if you're seeing this, it means I am dead. My daughter has neglected me for so long, and therefore, everything I own now belongs to Charles. I know that after my passing, my daughter and her husband might cause trouble, so consider this as proof in case anything like that happens. I know my daughter very well.
The case was immediately dismissed. The news of that spread too, and they were dragged until there was nothing left of their reputation to destroy. Just 2 weeks later, I saw on social media that they'd been caught stealing from a local market. They were beaten so badly they ended up in the hospital. Everyone mocked them. I didn't feel pity for them. Heck, it was funny watching them getting beaten. They reaped exactly what they deserved. They later struggled to find jobs, but eventually both landed positions as garbage collectors. I heard their boss is mean to them and overworks them, giving them extra tasks after learning how cruel they were. Thanks for watching.